My name is Maya Johnson. I am 28 years old. I am a waitress at Downtown Diner. The smell of old coffee and dust hit me as I pushed open the front door of the house that used to be my home. 15 years later, and it still smelled exactly the same. But this time, I wasn't the scared 13-year-old girl begging my aunt not to send me away. This time, I had the keys. My hands shook as I pulled the foreclosure papers from my purse. The bank had sold the house yesterday, and I'd been the highest bidder. Aunt Linda had no idea that the anonymous buyer was me, the same ungrateful brat she'd kicked out the day I turned 18. The living room looked smaller than I remembered. The same ugly brown couch sat in the corner, the one where Linda used to count money every Sunday night. Money that should have been mine. Money from my parents' life insurance and savings account that she'd somehow gotten control of after they died in that car crash. Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. I walked slowly through the house, my sneakers quiet on the old carpet. Everything was exactly where it had been when I lived here. The family photos on the mantel, but none of them showed me. Linda had removed every picture of me the day she threw me out, like I'd never existed at all. "You're nothing but trouble," she'd screamed that day, throwing my clothes into garbage bags. "Your parents spoiled you rotten, and look how you turned out. Ungrateful, just like your father." I tried to tell her I was grateful. I'd tried to be the perfect daughter she wanted, but nothing was ever good enough. Every meal came with a lecture about how much I cost her. Every piece of clothing was a reminder of her sacrifice. Every birthday that passed without a gift was proof that I didn't deserve anything. The sound of a car door slamming outside made me jump. Through the window, I could see Linda's old blue Honda in the driveway. She was supposed to be out by today, but here she was, probably coming to get more of her things. I heard her key in the lock, then her voice talking to someone on the phone. "I don't know who bought it, but they can't just kick me out like this. I've been here for 20 years. This is my home." Her footsteps echoed in the hallway as she walked toward the kitchen. I could hear her opening cabinets, probably looking for the good dishes she'd hidden away. The same dishes that had belonged to my mother. "The bank won't tell me anything about the new owner," she continued into the phone. "Some company bought it, but I'm going to fight this. I'm not leaving without a fight." I pressed myself against the wall, listening to her move around the house like she still owned it, like she hadn't lost it because she'd spent all the money, my money, on expensive clothes and fancy vacations while I worked double shifts at the diner just to pay rent on my tiny apartment. The footsteps stopped right outside the living room. "That's weird," Linda said, and I could hear her phone call ending. I could have sworn I locked that front door. My heart pounded as I heard her walking toward the living room. In about 10 seconds, she was going to see me standing here. The girl she'd called ungrateful for 15 years was about to become her new landlord. But first, she was going to see something else. Something I'd left on the coffee table for her to find. The original copy of my parents' will, the real one I'd finally tracked down last month. The one that proved she'd lied about everything. Linda's scream echoed through the house when she saw the will on the coffee table. The papers scattered as she grabbed them with shaking hands, her face going white as she read her own signature on the forged documents I'd paperclipped to the real ones. "Where did you get these?" she whispered, not even looking up at me yet. Her voice sounded like she'd swallowed glass. I stepped out from behind the wall, and when she finally saw me, the papers fell from her hands like dead leaves. For a moment, neither of us moved. She looked older than I remembered, with gray streaks in her brown hair and lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Hello, Aunt Linda," I said quietly. Surprise. Her mouth opened, and closed like a fish out of water. She looked at me, then at the papers on the floor, then back at me. Maya, what are you doing here? How did you get in? I pulled the house keys from my pocket and held them up. I live here now. Well, I own it anyway. The bank sold it to me yesterday. The color drained completely from her face. She grabbed the back of the couch to steady herself. That's impossible. You're just a waitress. You don't have that kind of money. You're right, I don't. I walked over and picked up the scattered papers. But I do have friends. Friends who believed me when I told them what you did. Friends who helped me get a loan. It wasn't exactly true. I'd actually sold everything I owned and borrowed money from 3 different credit cards to make the down payment. But she didn't need to know that. Linda's eyes darted around the room like she was looking for an escape route. I don't know what you think those papers prove, but they prove you forged my parents' will. I held up the documents. The real will left everything to me. The house, the life insurance money, the savings account. All of it. You changed the will and bribed someone at the courthouse to make it official. That's ridiculous. But her voice cracked when she said it. Your parents wanted me to take care of you. They knew you were too young to handle that much money. I was 13, not stupid. I could feel 15 years of anger rising in my chest. You took everything that belonged to me and then made me feel guilty for existing. You called me ungrateful every single day while you spent my inheritance on yourself. Linda straightened up, and for a second, I saw a flash of the woman who used to terrify me. I gave you a home when no one else would. I fed you and clothed you and put a roof over your head. If that's not grateful enough for you. You gave me the basement room with no heat. I interrupted. You made me wear clothes from the thrift store while you bought designer dresses. You told everyone at school that my parents died because they were irresponsible, and that's why I had behavioral problems. You did have behavioral problems. I was grieving. The words came out louder than I meant them to. I was a kid who lost her parents, and instead of helping me, you made me feel like it was my fault they were dead. Linda's face twisted into the same mean expression I remembered from childhood. Your parents spoiled you rotten. They gave you everything you wanted and never taught you the value of hard work. I was trying to fix what they broke by stealing my inheritance, by teaching you that the world doesn't owe you anything. She was shouting now, look at you. You're 28 years old and you're still a waitress. Even with all that money, you would have wasted it just like your father wasted everything he touched. The words hit me like a slap. For a second, I was 13 again, standing in this same room, while she told me why I didn't deserve nice things, why I should be grateful for scraps. But I wasn't 13 anymore. You're right, I said calmly. I'm just a waitress. But I'm a waitress who owns this house now. And you're a thief who has until tomorrow morning to get out. Linda's face went red. You can't do this. I'll fight you in court. I'll tell everyone what kind of person you really are. Go ahead. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. I've already called a lawyer. Turns out forging legal documents is a felony. The statute of limitations doesn't run out for another 2 years. Her eyes went wide. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other across the living room, and I could see her calculating her options. She was trapped, and she knew it. The house was mine, the evidence was clear, and she had nowhere left to run. That's when I heard the sound of another car pulling into the driveway. Linda heard it too. She rushed to the window and looked out, then spun around to face me with panic in her eyes. Who did you call? She demanded. I looked out the window and saw a black sedan with government plates. 2 people in suits were getting out, and one of them was carrying a briefcase. I didn't call anyone, I said, but my stomach dropped. Those weren't my lawyers. The doorbell rang, and a man's voice called out, "Federal agents. We need to speak with Linda Morrison about a financial investigation." Linda's face went completely white. She looked at me with terror in her eyes. "Maya," she whispered, "there's something else you need to know about your parents' money." The federal agents stood in our living room like they owned the place, their badges gleaming under the old ceiling light. Agent Martinez was tall and serious, while Agent Chen looked like she could see right through you. Linda sat on the couch, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold her coffee cup. "Mrs. Morrison," Agent Martinez said, opening his briefcase, "we're investigating a money laundering operation that your late husband was involved in. We have reason to believe some of that money ended up in accounts connected to the Johnson family estate." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" Agent Chen looked at me with kind eyes. "Your parents' life insurance payout and savings account received several large deposits in the months before their death. Deposits that came from illegal gambling operations your uncle was running." Linda's coffee cup slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Richard never told me where the money came from." "That's not what our investigation shows," Agent Martinez said. He pulled out a thick folder. "We have bank records showing you helped move money between accounts. You knew exactly what was happening." I felt like the room was spinning. "Are you saying my inheritance was stolen money?" "Some of it, yes." Agent Chen's voice was gentle. "About half of what your parents left behind came from your uncle's illegal activities. The other half was legitimate." Linda suddenly stood up, her face desperate. "Maya, you have to understand. When Richard died, those people came looking for their money. Dangerous people. I had to hide it somehow. So I changed the will to protect you." "Protect me?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You stole from me to protect me? If you'd inherited that money at 13, they would have come after you." Linda's voice cracked. "I spent it as fast as I could on things that couldn't be traced back to the gambling operation. I was trying to make it disappear before they found you." Agent Martinez shook his head. "Mrs. Morrison, our investigation shows you kept detailed records of every purchase. You weren't hiding money from criminals. You were stealing from your niece." The truth hit me like a truck. Linda hadn't been protecting me at all. She'd been protecting herself, using my parents' death as an excuse to take everything that should have been mine. "The people your uncle owed money to gave up looking years ago," Agent Chen explained. "They wrote off the debt when he died. You were never in any danger, Maya." I looked at Linda, who was crying now, real tears this time. 15 years, I said quietly. 15 years you let me believe I was ungrateful. 15 years you made me feel like I didn't deserve anything. I was scared," Linda sobbed. "After Richard died, I didn't know what to do. The money was just sitting there, and I thought maybe I deserved some of it. I'd taken care of you. I'd given up my life to raise you." "You gave up your life?" The anger was building in my chest again. "I gave up my childhood. I gave up college. I've been working since I was 16 because you convinced me I had to earn everything myself." Agent Martinez cleared his throat. "Ms. Johnson, we're going to need you to come with us to answer some questions about the current status of the estate. Since you now own the house, you're technically in possession of assets that may need to be seized as evidence." My heart sank. "You're taking the house?" "Not necessarily," Agent Chen said, "but we need to sort out what's legitimate and what isn't. It could take months." I looked around the living room, at the house I'd fought so hard to get back. The house that might not even be mine after all. Linda stood up slowly, wiping her eyes. "Maya, I know you hate me. I know I ruined your life. But I want you to know that I did love you. In my own messed up way, I thought I was doing the right thing. The right thing would have been telling me the truth. She nodded, fresh tears streaming down her face. You're right. You deserved better than what I gave you. Agent Martinez was packing up his papers. Mrs. Morrison, you'll need to come with us for questioning. Ms. Johnson, we'll be in touch about the house. As they led Linda toward the door, she turned back to look at me one more time. For what it's worth, she said quietly, your parents would be proud of the woman you became. You're stronger than any of us ever were. I watched through the window as they put her in the back of the government car. She looked small and old, nothing like the powerful woman who had controlled my entire childhood. After they drove away, I sat alone in the empty house, surrounded by the silence I'd been dreaming of for 15 years. I'd gotten my revenge, but it felt hollow now. Linda was going to prison, the house might be taken away, and I was still just a waitress with nothing to show for all my anger. But as I sat there in the fading afternoon light, I realized something had changed. For the first time in my life, I knew the truth about what had happened to my family. I knew my parents hadn't chosen Linda over me. I knew I wasn't the ungrateful child I'd been told I was. The house might not be mine to keep, but the truth was, and maybe that was enough. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from my friend Sarah, the one who'd helped me get the loan for the house. How did it go? Did you get to tell her off? I looked around the empty room one more time, then typed back. It's complicated, but I think I'm finally free. Outside, it started to rain, washing the dust from the windows and making everything look clean and new. I grabbed my keys and walked toward the door, leaving the past behind me where it belonged. Tomorrow, I'd figure out what came next. Tonight, I was going home to my tiny apartment, to my simple life, to the future I was finally free to build for myself. The girl who'd been called ungrateful for 15 years was walking away grateful for the first time in her life. Grateful for the truth, grateful for her strength, and grateful that some prisons can only hold you if you let them.